Hello, Namaskar, Vanakkam. Welcome to the fourth and concluding part explanation video for Act 1 of Pygmalion. I hope you have seen the first three videos. If you haven't, please see those videos because obviously it makes sense to move in a chronological manner. Now, what happens in the last part of Act 1? Because the flower girl has been constantly muttering, the note taker finally gets extremely irritated and annoyed, and he explodes. He says, "Woman, cease." Cease means stop. This detestable. Detestable means annoying. Boohooing instantly. Boohooing is the kind of crying that she's indulging in. Or else seek the shelter of some other place of worship, or you go to some other place of worship, some other church, and do this there. Do not do it here. So obviously he's kind of extremely angry and he wants her to stop this distasteful crying. That's the meaning of this detestable boohooing. Okay, so his anger, the note taker's anger, is less about her emotions and much more about her speech, because he's obsessed about the speech and he finds it rather irritating and disgusting. So he says, go to some other place of worship. The flower girl says with feeble defiance. So she is defiant, but the defiance is not very loud. It is not very assertive. I have a right to be here if I like same as you. Something like this, in that tone. She's not saying, I have a right to be here if I like same as you. No, that would have been loud defiance. But now this defiance is actually being a little feeble. By saying this, what is important here is what she says. Even though the feeble defiance is feeble, she says, I have a right. So what she's doing is to put herself there as an equal to the note taker, that if you have a right, I have a right to be here as well, because this is a public space. The note taker says, and he's saying it in a very harsh tone. He says, a woman who utters such depressing and disgusting sounds has no right to be anywhere, no right to live. And that's, according to me, gives us the first sense that he is an extremely arrogant and borders on being obnoxious. Anyone who says that to another person, that you do not have the right, just because of the kind of sounds you make, the kind of language you speak in, that you have no right to be anywhere, forget that, you have no right to live, according to me, is an extremely obnoxious thing to say. He's the one who is being distasteful. He's the one who is actually being extremely distasteful. The words that he used for her, detestable, should actually be used for the note taker because of this thing that he just now said. Remember that you are a human being with a soul and the divine gift of articulate speech. So now he shifts gears and now he's getting into advice mode, that you are a human being with a soul and you can speak the language, right? You can articulate. That your native language is the language, but he's not saying it because of her. He's saying because of the tradition of people who have spoken that language. That is William Shakespeare, John Milton, and the Bible. So don't sit there crooning like a bilious pigeon. A pigeon, kabutar, what kind of sound it creates? That kind of a very irritating, a very annoying kind of a sound. So a bilious means sickly, a sick pigeon. Okay, a sick bird, sick pigeon. So he's saying that, you need to have some dignity. You are human, you have a soul, you have the power of proper speech, and you are speaking the same language that great writers like Shakespeare and John Milton have, and therefore you should not behave like a sickly pigeon. The flower girl is quite overwhelmed by the outburst of the note taker, and she looks at him with wonder and depreciation. But she's also now a little afraid. She's a little scared of him. And she begins to bawl. She's like completely starts crying. The note taker, how does he react? He takes out his notebook. Heavens, what a sound. And then he tries to write down the exact sounds that are being created. Ah, 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 oh, 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 ooh. He's trying to do that, reproducing her vowels. The flower girl, she's obviously irritated. She uses in her Cockney accent. She says, go on. The note taker, you see this creature with the curbstone English, the English that will keep her in the gutter to the end of her days. Well, sir, in 3 months, I could pass that girl off as a duchess at an ambassador's garden party. I could even get her a place at ladies' maid or a shop assistant, which requires better English. So he's now saying this to the gentleman. So he's saying that Eliza's way of speaking is curbstone English. Curbstone English is something which will keep her poor forever. It's very low class English. The English that will keep her in the gutter to the end of her days. Till the time that she's dead, she will forever be in the gutter because of the kind of English that she speaks. But give her to me, that if I take care of her in 3 months, in 90 days, I could actually make her into a girl who could be understood, people would take her to be a duchess, which means someone of royal lineage at an ambassador's garden party. I could even get her a place as the maid for a lady or a shop assistant, which actually requires better English speaking skills. The gentleman says, I am myself a student of Indian dialects. And the note taker, oh, are you? Do you know Colonel Pickering, the author of spoken Sanskrit? Okay. For some reason, Sanskrit has been spelled like this, C instead of the K. The gentleman, I am Colonel Pickering. Who are you? Henry Higgins, author of Higgins' Universal Alphabet. So please remember, because this can come in the form of MCQs, right? So he's the author of this book called Spoken Sanskrit. He's the author of Universal Alphabet of Higgins. Okay, so those things that you need to remember. Okay, now there is something I have missed out. Now let me this thing. Now that's what I said. No, there is a bit of a change. Now, if you see, which requires better English, before they introduce each other, themselves to each other, what's that you say? The note taker says, yes, you squashed cabbage leaf. You disgrace to the noble architecture of these columns. You incarnate insult to the English language. I could pass you off as the Queen of Sheba. And to the gentleman, he says, can you believe it? Now, what do these lines mean? So he calls her names. He calls her the crushed leaf of cabbage. Now, cabbage, when it is crushed, it gives a bit of a stink, a bad smell. He calls her an insult to the English language. You incarnate insult to the English language. Incarnate means, someone who has a human body. Noble architecture of these columns, the columns which are there in the church, which are very good looking. I could pass you off as the Queen of Sheba. Now, Sheba is an ancient kingdom mentioned in various historical as well as in biblical texts. Okay, Sheba. Okay, Sheba. Okay, and Queen of Sheba is also mentioned in the biblical text. Okay, so that is something, that's a paragraph which is not there in this PDF, but it is there in this particular edition. So he says, I came from India to meet you. I was going to India to meet you. Pickering says, where do you live? He gives his address. And he says, I'm at the Carlton. Come with me now and let's have a jaw over some supper. So jaw over dinner means to chat over dinner, right? Let's have a chat. Let's have a conversation. Right you are. The flower girl to Pickering as he passes her. By flower king gentleman, kind gentleman, I'm short for my lodging. Short for my lodging means I am short of money in order to go back to my place. Higgins, now Pickering says, I really haven't any change. I'm sorry. And he goes away. Higgins, who is shocked at the girl's mendacity. Mendacity means to lie. Okay. So he says, liar, you said you could change half a crown. He has overheard her earlier, right? So he says, you earlier said that you have money in order to change half a crown, that you lied before. The flower girl rising in desperation. You ought to be stuffed with nails. You ought to be, and flinging the basket on his feet, take the whole blooming basket for 6 pence. So she gets angry. Blooming is slang used here to convey strong emotion, right? Take the, it could be, any 4-letter word also, but that's what she wants to kind of convey. And she says, you can strike. The church strikes the second quarter, which means it is 11:30 p.m. It seems a little strange. I thought it would have gone on for an hour, but it's actually only 15 minutes. Higgins, hearing it in the voice of God, rebuking him for his Pharisaic want of charity to the poor girl. Now, the moment the church clock strikes, Higgins feels something. He feels bad. He believes that it is reminding him to be charitable. Pharisaic means want of charity means lack of sympathy for the poor, like a Pharisee. So he doesn't want to be like that. So therefore, he raises his hat solemnly and throws a handful of money into the basket and follows Colonel Pickering. So the flower girl picks up a half crown, picks up a couple of florins, picks up several coins. Now, florins is 2 shilling coins. Okay, this currency is very confusing. Please write it separately in a notebook. Is 2 shilling coins. I myself get confused. Okay, so she does all that and she picks up and and at that point in time, okay. So Freddy comes, got one at last. Hello to the girl. Where were the 2 ladies? So Freddy comes back and the flower girl says, they walked to the bus when the rain stopped and left me with a cab on my hands. Damnation. So he's very annoyed that he has finally got a cab, but his mother and sister have already left in the bus. They have taken a bus. Never you mind, young girl. I'm a young man. I'm going home in a taxi. She sails off to the cab. The driver puts his hand behind him and holds the door firmly shut against her. Quite understanding his mistress, she shows him that she has money. It's not as though she can't afford to go by cab back to her home. 8 pence isn't no object to me, Charlie. So now she refers to him as Charlie, just like she referred to Freddy earlier as Freddy. So these are very common names in London. So she calls the taxi driver as Charlie. Angel Court, Drury Lane, round the corner of Michael John's oil shop. Let's see how fast you can make her hop it. Okay, 1 minute. Now, let me just see this thing, because this may be a little different. Yeah. Let me just go through this because this PDF doesn't have it. So I'm a little surprised where they have taken it from. So she gets into the taxi and he asks where to. She says Buckingham Palace. Buckingham Palace is the home of King Charles, the royal family. What do you mean Buckingham Palace? Don't you know where it is? In the Green Park where the king lives. Goodbye, Freddy. Don't let me keep you standing there. Goodbye. So taxi man says, what's this about Buckingham Palace? What business do you have at Buckingham Palace? Why would someone like you need to go to Buckingham Palace? Because he can make out that she's a working class lady. How can she be allowed inside the palace? Of course, I have none, but I wasn't letting him know where I'm actually going to. And where is home? So then she gives the address, Angel Court, Drury Lane, next to my John Uncle's oil shop. Okay, my John Uncle's oil shop. That sounds more like it, Jury. And he drives off. Now, the next lane, Eliza, when they reach there, so she says, how much? He says, can't you read a shilling? A shilling for just 2 minutes? 2 minutes or 10, it's the same. Well, I don't call it right. So taxi man says, have you ever been in a taxi before? Lisa says with a lot of dignity, hundreds and thousands of times, which probably is obviously a lie, right? Taxi man laughs at her. He says, good for you, Judy. Keep the shilling, darling, with best love from all at home. Good luck. And he drives off. He doesn't even take that money. She's feeling humiliated. Okay. So impudence means impudence or insolence, bad behavior by the taxi driver. She picks up the basket and trudges up the alley with it to her lodging, a small room with very old wallpaper hanging loose in the damp places. So you can make out the kind of room that she lives in, which she had earlier referred to as a place where it's not fit for the pigs. We don't know whether it's the same place that she has gone to. A broken pane in the window is mended with paper. Perhaps not. That's where she hails from, and this is where she lives. A portrait of a popular actor and a fashion plate of ladies' dresses, all widely beyond the poor flower girl's means, both torn from newspapers, are pinned up on the wall. A bird cage hangs in the window, but its tenant, that is, the cage, does not have a bird anymore. The bird had died long ago. It remains only there as a memorial for her memory. Now, these are some of the visible luxuries. A bird cage, you can afford. She could afford to have a cage with a bird earlier, right? A portrait of a popular actor and a fashion plate of ladies' dresses. These are some of the visible signs of luxury, right? The other things in her house convey poverty. A wretched bed heaped with all sorts of coverings that do not have any warmth in them. a draped packing case with a basin and a jug on it and a little looking glass over it, a chair and a table, the refuse of some suburban kitchen. Refuse means the waste of some kitchen. Suburban means on the outskirts, not an urban area. And an American alarm clock on the shelf above the unused fireplace. So fireplace she can't use because she doesn't have any wood to light up a fire. The whole lighted with the gas lamp with a penny in the slot meter. Rent was 4 shillings a week. Here, the flower girl chronically weary. Chronically means always very weary, means very tired, but too excited to go to bed, counting her new riches and dreaming and planning what to do with them because she has made some money today until the gas out when she enjoys for the first time the sensation of being able to put in another penny without grudging it. This prodigal mood means that she can afford to kind of indulge herself that particular night. This prodigal mood, prodigal means always lavish, does not, this lavish sense does not extinguish her gnawing sense, means, and this is something which is playing on in her mind of the need for economy sufficiently to prevent her from calculating that she can dream and plan in bed more cheaply and warmly than sitting up without a fire. So she can go to bed and cover up herself with whatever warmth that she has out there instead of sitting there without a fireplace, without a fire in the fireplace. So she takes off her shawl and skirt and adds them to the miscellaneous bed clothes. There are many clothes which are lying on the bed. Then she kicks off her shoes and gets into bed without any further change. So gnawing means is something which is persistently worrying. So with this, we have come to the end of the first act of Pygmalion. I hope I have managed to do justice to this. I think I have. I've explained every word, every line, and the overall theme and the mood and the thought process of all the main characters. And I do hope you would be able to, once you understand it, anything that comes, and I've given you signs of, the 2 female characters, the note takers character, the colonel's thing, the bystanders are important, the minor character like Freddy, what do we know about Freddy, all the contrast between the note taker and Freddy, all these kind of questions are things which you should prepare for, so that when you go into the examination, you should not be thinking out there. You should have your points already there in your mind, which you can write in your examination. Okay, tata, bye bye, thank you very much. I'll see you now in Act 2 of this particular